Edifier is a name that is pretty well known in the hi-fi space. And when I say the name Edifier, you probably think of something like this: speakers, bookshelf monitors, because this is what they are primarily known for. And they're known not only for making speakers, but making very good speakers. They make high quality, good sounding gear. Well, now Edifier is trying their hand at headphones. Headphone highlights, I'm Master Marslander, and today we're talking about the Edifier WH950NB. Wow, I really hate names like this. Oh well. The 950 here is a wireless active noise cancelling over-ear dynamic headphone, purpose-built for portability and style. If you like the content in this video or any of the other videos on this channel, then I offer you to consider to subscribe. It helps me a lot, it helps the channel a lot, and allows me to continue to keep making wacky audio videos like this one. And before we begin, Edifier did provide this unit to me for this review, so thank you very much, Edifier. But as always, all thoughts and opinions of this headphone are going to be my own. So here they are, the Edifiers. And you can probably tell right off the bat, man, are they pretty. They are genuinely one of the prettiest headphones. They're gorgeous. And for that reason alone, I'm going to categorize these right out of the gate as fashion cans. Yes, fashion cans, because obviously I know about fashion. Very, very good design. I really, really like it. I don't know if the camera is picking this up exactly right, but this is not a just stark white color. They're more of like a cream white. And then the yokes here, as well as the logo, very subtle logo, which I actually really, really love, is more of like a rose gold. So rose gold and then the cream here. Genuinely a beautiful, beautiful color scheme. And this is just one of the colors available. There's also an all black version if you want to keep it nice and simple. But I actually genuinely really, really love this color scheme. This looks great. So what are these headphones? They are a 40mm dynamic driver headphone. They're obviously over ear. They are wireless using Bluetooth 5.3, and they have excellent range. In fact, the range is good enough that I was able to listen to these without any interruption or any disconnection from a device connected in my test bench here while I was out in the backyard. So good, strong connection. They do feature active noise cancellation, and they offer several levels of it. We'll talk more about that when we talk about the app. They advertise 55 hours of playtime, 35 hours if you have active noise cancellation turned on. And I will say that in real world testing using these, it's pretty close to what I was getting. I was getting around 30 some hours of listening time with ANC turned on, and close to 50 hours, if maybe 50 hours with ANC turned off. So that remained pretty true. They also do offer fast charging, very fast charging in fact. 10 minutes charge will give you around 7 hours of playtime, which is excellent, and you can get these fully charged in about an hour and a half. Some audio features is that they support LDAC up to 96 kilohertz sample rates, and again, we'll discuss that in more detail when we're looking at the app. In terms of materials, these are mostly plastic. You got plastic cups, plastic yoke, plastic adjustment bracket, which is very, very clicky and satisfying and very simple to use and does not in any way kind of scuff or muff the headband, which is, I think, probably one of the only metal pieces on the headphone here. You do have the spring steel right off the top of the headband, but under the headband you have very, very soft protein leather, the same protein leather that is being used on the pads. So very, very good plush protein leather pads that do have a very nice slow moving memory foam, as you can see. They're not the biggest pads, and that's maybe my only complaint with the headphone, is that the pads are a little small. I wish they were bigger, but we'll talk more about that when we get to comfort. They are labeled left and right inside of the cups there, as you can see. And they do offer 90 degrees of rotation so that you can have them flat like so. Your tilt is plenty of tilt, so you have kind of all the flexibility you need to get the right fit. And they do also even fold in onto themselves, which is very nice to get them to fit into the very simple and small carrying case. So here is the case. It's a pretty simple kind of just canvas case. It's very nice, good color, but you'll notice, and I almost hesitate to mention this because as soon as I noticed it, I have not been able to unnotice it, but you might notice that the Edifier logo here is not center. That drives me insane. It's a nitpicky thing, but man, does it bother me that that edifier is not right dead center. But oh well, it's fine. Simple case. It is pretty dang small and fits into a backpack perfectly. And the way that the headphones fit inside here is also quite nice. You have this little flap right here. You take the headphones, and there you go. Beautiful. Perfect. Great. Portability, excellent carrying case. In terms of other accessories, move them over here. Pretty simple stuff. You get your literature, who cares? You get a USB-C to USB-A charging cable. You get this pretty simple auxiliary cable, which has a right angle to a straight angle, 3.5 millimeter. And then you also get, of course, your plane jack here, your little plane adapter. So that's nice to have. So all in all, actually a pretty good package. I have no problems with the packaging. I have no problems with the accessories. It's all good stuff. Serves us very well. I'm gonna go ahead and put that all back in my little carrying case pouch here. So yes, the build quality is fantastic. And let me be clear, though this is mostly plastic, it is very high quality plastic. It feels wonderful. The matte finishing on the plastic on sections like here or here on the cup feel fantastic. And then the actual face of the cups here are textured almost like leather. I don't know how well you can see that, but yeah, they're kind of molded to have this leather texture, and they feel great. Really nice. So what about comfort? How does all this come together for comfort? Well, because these are mostly plastic, they're very light, just under 300 grams. Looking at the pads again, they are very soft. They are a protein leather, but man, are they soft. And that memory foam is very nice, slow moving, very forming. As you can see here, they're not the thickest pads, but they're plenty thick enough for most cases. I have never really had a problem with them. In terms of how they fit, well, for me, because of my big dumb head, I actually have to have these completely extended for them to fit on my head. But once they're there, fully extended, it's a very nice fit. These pads, like, because they're so soft and so kind of plush and cushy, very isolating, even when I'm wearing glasses. So my voice is muffled, the fan is muffled, and it kind of has to be. It has to be a very isolating seal around the ears for the active noise cancellation to be very effective. And it's great. So excellent passive sound isolation, and they're able to accomplish that with very manageable clamp force. The clamp force is what's mostly keeping the headphone on my head right now, and it's very manageable. It's not fatiguing really at all. I'm able to wear these for hours at a time without any fatigue or discomfort from the clamp force. So it's extremely manageable. It's nice and tight. I'm not worried about the headphones falling off my head, but they're also not crushing my face. So great clamp force. The top of the headband here, that protein leather up there is just plush enough, just soft enough that it pretty much eliminates any hot spots up here on the top of my head. So I have no top of the head discomfort either. So they're actually a very comfortable headphone. The only really downside is that the pads are pretty small. They're not enough to really fit my ears. Maybe if you have teeny tiny ears, you're not gonna have that big of a problem. But for me, they're a little small. And if you look here, the way that this fits for me is that my ears are kind of tucked back inside here and a little bit in the front too. So my ears are always touching kind of the back of the pad and the front of the pad, maybe even a little bit of the top and the bottom of the pad. My ears aren't touching the driver, like back here deep in the cup, so that's nice, but I am definitely getting my ears in contact with the pad itself. Not the most ideal thing, but it's really not that big of a deal. I do just kind of have to scoop my ears inside those cups to get the right fit. So in terms of our Comfort Cloud scale system that we have here on the channel, I'm going to give the Edifiers 8 clouds of comfort. They're exceptionally comfortable. The only thing that's really holding them back from being a higher rating in the comfort scale is the size of the pads. If the pads were just a little bit bigger, it might even getting pretty close to a Cloud 9. They are exceptionally comfortable headphones. You could use Edifiers for calls if you want, for conference calls. It does have built-in microphones. If you want to hear what that sounds like, here you go. This is what the microphone sounds like on the Edifier WH950NB. So they're okay. It's not the best sounding, of course. Not sure that's not a surprise to anyone, but it's also not the worst sounding. I've heard much worse. So if you need it for just answering some calls, wherever you are, yes, it can do that. And in terms of the active noise cancellation, how good is the active noise cancellation? Well, it's actually pretty great. I don't have any complaints about the active noise cancellation. First of all, these are a very isolating headphone. This is a very good seal on the ear, and everything in my room right now, including my voice, is extremely muffled. Everything is very, very well isolated. Good sound isolation passively. But the ANC on here is also quite good. It is able to easily take care of lower frequencies like car hums or plane hums, and it also doesn't have much of a noise floor. There's a tiny bit if you get really, really crazy loud with it, but otherwise it's barely noticeable, if ever. So I mean, it sounds genuinely excellent, and I'm happy to say that the turning active noise cancellation on or off doesn't really change much of the sound performance. So you're perfectly free to go ahead and just leave it on at maximum and enjoy peaceful silence with your music. Being a Bluetooth wireless headphone, it's probably no surprise that there is a proprietary app that can go along with these that gives you some extra control and sound options. So I'm going to go ahead and put that right here on screen and go over with you what the app is like and how to navigate it and some options you have. So on the home page here, you see that you have your various kind of options of how to use the active noise cancellation. High noise cancellation is the highest level of noise cancellation you can be using, but also you could just have it doing low noise cancellation, wind reduction, ambient sound, and then you can also just have the thing turned off. So it does do a little bit of passive sound pass-through as well. It's okay, it's not the best, but it's fine. In terms of what the different levels of active noise cancellation do, I mean, really, if you're not using, I just recommend you use the high noise cancellation, because everything else is just kind of just not as good, and it all sounds kind of the same. So you might as well go with the full eliminate all sound. If we swipe to the right, we now have access to our EQ profiles. You got two stock profiles right there, classic and dynamic. And then you also have the custom EQ. If we click on that, you get your simple 4 bars of EQ adjustment to kind of help customize it how you like. If we go back and swipe right again, we see more sound modes. The first one being music, the second one being game. So there is a game mode if you want to run these with kind of low latency, and it does make quite a bit of a difference. Not having game mode enabled, there is pretty significant latency between the sound in your game versus what's being produced in the headphone. Almost I would say half a second worth of latency. So turning on game mode does significantly help with that, so that you're getting a much more immediate, quick connection between what you're seeing and what you're hearing. There's also theater mode, which I just don't recommend. I don't like how theater mode sounds. It's, I guess, supposed to make things a bit more immersive sounding, but I didn't find that it actually did that. You notice this whole section down the bottom of the app, we're going to just kind of ignore all of that, because that's just kind of like the store and your account. I'm not going to go over any of that. I don't think it's worth it. And while we're looking at the headphone tab, you might think, well, okay, so we only have 3 pages worth of options and adjustments in the app here, but actually there's a lot more. It just happens to be hidden away. Up here in the top right corner, you'll see that little hexagon. If we tap that, it brings up the more advanced menu. Here you could see your firmware version, user manual. We have a breakdown of the controls, but also we have some pretty important features on here. Number one we could talk about is the LDAC. If we tap on that, it opens up our sample rates that we were able to get out of the headphone. This is very important, and we'll talk about this when it comes to sound performance, but know that this is where you're going to enable or disable LDAC. LDAC is very important to get high quality sound out of this thing. That being said, if I go back, dual device connection. You can connect these edifiers to multiple devices. I can have it connected to my phone and my PC at the same time. However, here's the caveat, and it says so somewhere in here, and it'll even give you a warning if you try to do this. You cannot have dual device connection and LDAC activated at the same time. They cannot be both enabled. If you're going to use the LDAC sample rates, you cannot use the dual connection. I really dislike that. I wish that wasn't the case. I really wish that I could have my PC and my phone connected with LDAC because LDAC is so important to the sound performance of this headphone. But it is what it is. You kind of have to make a choice. We have prompt volume, and then we have safe volume. Safe volume, I highly recommend. You tap that, it's going to give you a little window pop up of, hey, do you want to enable this or disable this? Basically what this does is it ensures that the headphone's not ever going to get to a volume that is going to be damaging for your ears. And for you young whippersnappers out there, I know that you oftentimes are probably listening way louder than you should. You should protect your ears. You don't need to blast this freaking thing. It has active noise cancellation. You should not have to blast it. So I do recommend using safe mode just to be safe. Protect your ears. And then the rest of this is just your power options, your shutdown timer, Bluetooth, and factory resets. But this is kind of like a bit of a hidden menu here, and it's got some pretty important features listed here. So just be aware that's where all these things are. Okay, let's discuss sound performance on the WH950NBs. Give your headphones some actual names, please. Gosh, I hate model numbers, man. So this is really important. Right out of the box, when you take these out of their box, they sound bad. They don't sound good. Oh my goodness. They're noisy, distorted, muddy, super veiled, have kind of a tinniness to them, and really have very, very little definition or fidelity. Not good right out of the box. But don't worry, because you can definitely fix it in the app. The app is necessary. I gotta make this clear. The app is necessary to make these sound good. Without the app, without making any adjustments, it's not gonna be a good time. So really quick, I'm going to bring the app up here again and walk you through the settings I highly recommend to make this thing sound good. From our home menu here, first of all, yes, high noise cancellation, because it sounds pretty much the same in any other scenario. You might as well go with the full noise cancellation. We're going to swap right. We're going to, in my opinion, not use classic, not use dynamic, but instead use our classic EQ. For me, I have it set to nothing. As you can see, 0 on everything. Flatline it. For me, this is most ideal. Go back again, swipe right again. Highly recommend you keep it on music unless you really, really need that low latency for gaming. But yes, keep it on the music mode. Now for the important bit, we're going to click on that hexagon. And the first thing we're going to do is go to LDAC. By default, at least on my unit, it was disabled. LDAC was disabled. And that was the primary reason, I think, as to why it sounded as bad as it did. I highly, highly recommend, not even recommend, I almost say it's a requirement to run these with LDAC turned on. Which sample rate do you want to use? That's up to you. I mean, for me, I'm going full balls to the walls here and running it at 96, but if you want to run it at 48 to 41 kilohertz, that's fine. But just have LDAC turned on because, man, it makes such a huge difference. And the whole reason I'm going over this is because it's not very clear from a first, like opening it up and plugging it in experience, that this is even in here and that it makes that big of a difference. But trust me, it makes a huge difference. Turn on LDAC. After that, everything's going to sound a whole hell of a lot better. And again, LDAC only works on single device, so you won't be able to utilize that dual device option, which is really unfortunate, but the difference is night and day. It sounds significantly better with LDAC turned on. With LDAC turned on, now we have a headphone. We have some decent definition. We have a little bit of fidelity. We have some characteristics. We have some dynamics. We have some pretty good overall features going on in the frequency range. In a nutshell, this is an extremely relaxed headphone. Very, very relaxed, very warm. I would almost characterize it as maybe a little bit dark. It's just a really, really relaxed listening experience. So relaxed that sometimes I feel like I'm getting lazy while I'm listening to them. It makes me feel lazy. They're just that relaxing. There's a lot of bass presence here. Lots and lots of mid bass. Not very much in terms of sub bass. Sub bass, I think it's cut off pretty good because there's not a whole lot of extension in general on either side of the frequency. They say that it has a 20 hertz to 40,000 hertz frequency range. I'm not picking up on that. I really feel like your sub bass is getting cut off pretty early and your treble range is definitely getting cut off really early. So I'm not really seeing that frequency range in there. but just so you are aware. Big cutoffs on either end, making it very warm and relaxed, but also dark on the high end. But that mid bass, again, very nice. It's a good punchy, meaty, really in your chest kind of mid bass and bass range. And it can get a little bit muddy, it can get a little bit blooming, but it's not too bad, and you can get some pretty okay clarity and definition in that mid bass. So it's just maybe more just really punchy and hitting than it is so much veiling, though you are definitely getting a little bit of blooming in there. The mid-range is pretty standard. Mid-range is okay, it's fine. It's not particularly well defined, it's not particularly well detailed, but it's okay. I don't really have a problem with it. It doesn't really stand out, but it's fairly clear. However, vocals, while sounding pretty natural, maybe a little bit artificially warm, vocals do kind of have a tendency to get a little bit lost in the mid-range, a little pushed away from everything else that's in the mid-range. So the vocal range is, I don't know, maybe a little bit engulfed by your mid-range, maybe a bit of your mid-bass as well. That might be what's affecting it. But vocals are not right in front of you. They're not a big focus of the frequency. They're just a little bit lost in the mid-range. And then your treble range is very, very cut off. Treble, it has really no sparkle or texture in it. It really doesn't have very much in terms of detail. It's really easy to listen to. It's never ever gets fatiguing. It never gets sibilant. It never gets too high or too hot. Extremely easy listening treble range, but not a very clear treble range, not a very detailed treble range. It's just pretty dark. Imaging is okay. Especially gaming with these, imaging was doing fine for me with gaming, but it is mostly kind of left and right imaging. I'm hearing pretty good definition over here, but right in front definition starts to get lost a little bit. Things aren't so well defined. The separation is okay, but it's just not very precise. You definitely get a sense of more precision once the direction becomes more like here out to here. And you're really not getting a whole lot behind you either. Soundstage is actually pretty okay. It's a close back and it's noise canceling, but it's not like it's beaming directly into your ears. You get a little bit of space, a little bit of air there to give you just a little bit of separation, a little bit of an immersive sort of sound. So it's a good medium kind of level of soundstage. So in terms of their audio performance, their sound performance, they're okay for music. Certainly I've heard much, much worse, but I'd say that they actually shine the most with media consumption. So watching movies, watching YouTube, playing games. That was a lot more enjoyable for me than sitting down and trying to listen and analyze music. So for that, they're actually very enjoyable. I could absolutely see sitting on a plane and watching movies with these and having a great time doing it. Because man, it's a very relaxed sound and on a very comfortable headphone that'll just let you sit back and relax while you watch your videos. It'll do great. So, like I said at the beginning of the video, Edifier is known in the hi-fi space for making audiophile grade speakers. I don't know if I would really categorize these as an audiophile headphone. Definitely a fashionable headphone. They're gorgeous, they're beautiful, they're extremely comfortable, and they do sound fun for stuff like movies and games. But for music consumption, for music analyzing, not really up to par, I don't think. I do think that they sound quite a bit better than more mainstream Bluetooth headphones like the Soundpeat Space, but also maybe not quite up to the fidelity of something like your Focal Batiste. And in terms of your value to performance, it's, I think, about a little bit more than half the price of something like a Sony WH950NB. And I think it doesn't sound really that much worse than the Sonys. I think it's pretty on par with the Sonys. Maybe not quite as good of active noise cancellation, but for almost half the price, it's, I think, a pretty dang good value. Very similar sound, very good active noise canceling. It's really, really pretty on par with the Sonys, I think. And man, do they look beautiful. I do like them. I do wish that they sounded a bit better, but that's okay. Edifier can do it again. I have full confidence in them. So Edifier, thank you very much for providing this headphone for this review. We really appreciate you. I hope you all enjoyed this, and I will be seeing you again very soon. My wife stole them.